While national championships are being held in many countries around the world, the teams that will participate in the upcoming Tour de France are being announced. Top! And we're kicking off this 10-minute individual time trial roundup with a summary of the most important news in the world of cycling. Today, June 26th. And we do it precisely with the news that is coming out today, in which, for example, Nils Pollitt from the Emirates team has won the German National Time Trial Championship. His female counterpart, Franziska Koch from the France de DG team, has also achieved it in her category. Manuel Greve Xavier, the rider from Little Trek, has done it in Eritrea. And a wide range of riders have been competing in these races over the past few days, in which, among others, Pippo Ganna has won the Italian Time Trial Championship for the 7th time. Let's start precisely with the latest news from what has been happening in these national championships, which for now are being contested in the time trial. Both yesterday and today, many of them are well-known and recognized names from the World Tour and Pro Team squads. And the truth is that a large part of those championships are being won by riders who have already finished. They had the jersey before. Some are also small surprises. But for example, Derek G from Canada has renewed that position. The American Quinn Simmons has done it as well, in the same way that Pippo Ganna does it, as we mentioned, for the 7th time in Italy. Nils Pollitt has achieved it for Germany, while Pablo Castillo secured that time trial for Movistar in Sabignanigo yesterday. There have been many alternatives that have come up. Días. In fact, some countries, precisely because of the heat wave, have decided to shorten the routes of these competitions to avoid problems that have affected many cyclists in recent days. And this precisely leads us to what has been learned about the Tour de France. And what about the teams that each of the organizations will field on July 4th when the race starts in Barcelona? Although there are still some doubts and some situations that need to be clarified, what really stands out is the sheer number of withdrawals that have been reported in recent days, of riders who at the beginning of the season were expected to compete in this event. And for various reasons, what really stands out are viral infections from flu-like illnesses. Coraza, and some colds that couldn't be treated in time, and have forced some Razar and to give up on this goal during the season. For example, Bahrain has confirmed this situation with Pello Bilbao, who was one of their key riders, especially after he announced his withdrawal from this season at the end of Izulia. And he won't be able to be at the start of the French race in Barcelona. He also won't be able to participate due to the accident he suffered in Uberne. Carrera. And there are many doubts surrounding other riders who might be on the edge regarding their form and their ability to start the race. For now, for example, Renko Evenepoel would not be the leader of the Red Bull Bora team. That role would go to Florian Lipovic. And this has also sparked a lot of debate. At the same time, we have to see how things develop. Teams that are very interested in presenting their maximum number of candidates at the start on the upcoming 4th. Are they being diminished by the injuries that have occurred or by those recovery processes, which are not completely resolved and are made worse by viral illnesses, which have become quite common in the peloton since the Giro d'Italia. And many times the exact origin or source of the infection is not known. However, it is affecting these cyclists and these riders. Starting tomorrow, we will begin a detailed analysis of the different teams and the rosters they are presenting. Some of them are already, of course, almost confirmed, keeping in mind that there could be small last minute changes until next July's first. However, some have already made progress. How their structures are going to be. Visma Lisa Vai has done it, and the riders from the Jaiko Alula team have said it and applied it. So, well, little by little, we will break down how those formations will be as the initial 8 are confirmed. Let's remember that in the Tour de France, a long, let's say extended list is first presented, from which the riders who will later defend each of their teams will be chosen. Let's also remember that in this edition of the Tour de France, it starts with a team time trial in the city of Barcelona. And this, well, will also weigh heavily when it comes to choosing exactly which cyclists, for one reason or another, will be at the starting line. As for other news, we have some very positive news for the Movistar development team. They will add a Latin American rider, a Colombian rider coming from the Credito system, and a Spanish rider coming from Cafés Baques. In other words, in this way, they are betting on new blood, on new talent. From the Spanish team, which at the start of the season launched the Movistar Academy. Among them was, as we have already mentioned, Jonathan Guatibonza. This is an initiative eh, eh, in which the development teams have the opportunity for cyclists who are growing and gradually adapting to European roads. They also have the opportunity to compete in some quite demanding races already of category, even 2.1, 2.2, which allows them to gain experience in that category. The inclusion of a Latin American riders is becoming very important for the development of cycling on the continent. Without going any further, Mateo Ramirez is now a focus of attention from many teams. There was talk about the possibility of him joining Movistar. It seems that the Ecuadorian rider is going to tie his future to Jonathan Narvaez, who renewed his contract this week. The news was known for 3 more seasons until 2029 with UAE, and it seems that Mateo Ramirez would follow in his footsteps and stay with this team. It's where he can grow the most and where he has already achieved many important accomplishments this year. Just a few days ago, he finished second in the Giro Next Generation, which is already an extremely demanding race where he has proven his worth. His worth. The Ecuadorian rider, who, by the way, comes from a country that in the last 2 months has been getting a lot of attention and great achievements in cycling. For example, we have what Richard Carapaz achieved in the Tour de Suisse and the victories of Jonathan Narvaez. Also, the good performances that the young rider Mateo Ramirez is delivering. But we also saw in Andorra that Alexander Cepeda was also in very good shape. That is to say, Ecuadorian cycling is truly attracting attention and knocking on the doors of many of the most important teams in the world. I want to highlight at this point the work of the rider Enrique Bravo, a Brazilian rider who belongs to the Saudal team. Let's remember that Zaid Cisneros is also there, a Mexican rider with a lot of potential and very interesting. He will also have to make his progression in the development teams. For all of this, logically linked to the progression they make in their teams, will allow them to move forward little by little, gaining those steps to finally reach the World Tour, which is where everyone wants to be. But we'll tell you all about that little by little. For now, we invite you to join us on a bike ride. I'm Iñaki Berrueta.